At my brother's dinner party, they called me a glorified secretary. They laughed when I mentioned my work at the courthouse, dismissing me as someone who filed papers and answered phones. Then the judge arrived unexpectedly, asking why the new owner of the entire judicial complex was sitting quietly in the corner instead of being properly honored. That night, their mockery turned to stunned silence, and I realized that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply letting people discover who you really are. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Samantha Chen, and for 28 years, I had perfected the art of being underestimated. While my older brother Marcus commanded every room with his loud opinions about his real estate ventures, and my younger sister Jade charmed everyone with stories of her marketing agency's latest campaigns, I had learned to find power in the spaces where others overlooked me. The irony was not lost on me that my family considered my position at the Riverside County Superior Court to be evidence of my limited ambitions. They saw courthouse work as bureaucratic drudgery, suitable for someone who lacked the entrepreneurial spirit that supposedly ran in our family bloodline. What they failed to understand was that I had chosen this path deliberately, recognizing opportunities that their flashier careers would never provide. My journey into the judicial system had begun during my junior year at Stanford Law School, when most of my classmates were competing for prestigious internships at corporate law firms. While they networked at expensive wine events and polished their resumes for positions that promised six-figure starting salaries, I quietly accepted an unpaid research position with Judge Margaret Thornton at the Riverside County Superior Court. Judge Thornton was nearing retirement and had developed a reputation for being demanding, detail-oriented, and intolerant of the kind of ambitious young lawyers who viewed judicial clerkships as stepping stones to more lucrative careers. Most law students avoided her chambers, preferring judges who might provide stronger networking connections or recommendation letters for corporate positions. I approached Judge Thornton differently. Rather than viewing the clerkship as a temporary inconvenience, I treated it as an intensive education in how the legal system actually functioned. I arrived early each morning to review case files before Judge Thornton arrived, stayed late to research complex legal precedents, and spent weekends reading court decisions that helped me understand the nuanced reasoning behind judicial opinions. Judge Thornton initially regarded me with the same skepticism she reserved for all young lawyers, testing my knowledge with obscure legal questions and assigning me research projects that would have overwhelmed most clerks. Instead of complaining about the workload, I embraced these challenges as opportunities to develop expertise that law school courses could not provide. The transformation in our working relationship occurred gradually. Judge Thornton began assigning me more substantive research projects, inviting me to observe complex hearings, and eventually allowing me to draft preliminary opinions for her review. By the end of my clerkship, she was consulting me on legal strategy and case management in ways that went far beyond traditional clerk responsibilities. What my family interpreted as settling for a mundane government job was actually my strategic entry into understanding how judicial systems operated from the inside. While other law school graduates were billing hours for corporate clients, I was learning about court administration, budget allocation, facilities management, and the complex web of relationships that determined how legal institutions functioned. Judge Thornton became more than a supervisor during that crucial year. She became a mentor who recognized my analytical capabilities and my genuine interest in judicial administration. When she mentioned that the county was struggling with outdated facilities and inefficient case management systems, I began developing proposals for technological improvements that could streamline court operations while reducing costs. My recommendations impressed not only Judge Thornton but also the court administrators who were responsible for managing the county's judicial budget. They invited me to present my proposals to the Board of Supervisors, where my detailed analysis of potential cost savings and efficiency improvements garnered attention from officials who controlled significant public resources. The presentation led to a full-time position as a judicial analyst, a role that placed me at the intersection of legal expertise and administrative strategy. While my law school classmates were working 100-hour weeks at corporate firms, I was developing comprehensive understanding of how courts could be managed more effectively while maintaining my commitment to public service. My family viewed this career choice with a mixture of disappointment and confusion. Marcus frequently commented that I was wasting my Stanford education on a government salary, while Jade suggested that I lacked the ambition necessary for entrepreneurial success. Our parents, while proud of my law degree, clearly wished I had followed a more conventional path toward partnership at a prestigious firm. Their criticism stung initially, but I gradually learned to view their misunderstanding as an advantage. Because they dismissed my work as unimportant, they never asked detailed questions about my responsibilities or achievements. This lack of interest allowed me to pursue projects and develop expertise without the pressure of constant family scrutiny or unsolicited advice. The courthouse became my laboratory for innovation. I identified inefficiencies in case scheduling that were causing unnecessary delays, developed digital filing systems that reduced administrative costs, and created training programs that improved communication between judges, clerks, and court staff. Each improvement generated measurable results in terms of cost savings and improved service delivery. My analysis revealed systemic problems that extended beyond individual court operations. The county's judicial facilities were aging and expensive to maintain, technology systems were outdated and incompatible with modern case management requirements, and budget constraints were forcing compromises that affected the quality of judicial services. Rather than simply documenting these problems, I began developing comprehensive solutions that addressed infrastructure, technology, and operational challenges simultaneously. My proposals required significant capital investment but promised long-term savings that would more than justify the initial costs. The research consumed my evenings and weekends for months, as I analyzed comparable judicial systems in other counties, interviewed technology vendors about innovative solutions, and consulted with architects about modern courthouse design principles. My apartment became filled with blueprints, budget projections, and feasibility studies that mapped out a complete transformation of how Riverside County delivered judicial services. Judge Thornton supported my research efforts by providing access to confidential budget documents and introducing me to key decision-makers throughout the county government. She understood that my proposals could address problems that had frustrated judicial administrators for decades, but she also recognized that implementing such comprehensive changes would require political support and substantial financial resources. The breakthrough came when I discovered that the county was planning to issue municipal bonds for infrastructure improvements. The bond authorization included funding for judicial facilities, but the proposed projects were limited to minor renovations that would not address fundamental structural problems. I prepared a detailed analysis demonstrating that the county could achieve better long-term results by investing in completely new facilities, rather than attempting to renovate buildings that were fundamentally inadequate for modern judicial operations. My proposal outlined how modern courthouse design could improve security, enhance accessibility, and create operational efficiencies that would reduce ongoing costs. The presentation to the County Board of Supervisors was scheduled for a routine administrative meeting that typically attracted minimal public attention. I had prepared extensively, anticipating questions about costs, timelines, and implementation challenges. What I had not anticipated was the level of interest my proposal would generate among board members who had been struggling with judicial facility problems for years. The discussion continued for over 2 hours, with board members asking detailed questions about financing options, construction timelines, and operational improvements. Several supervisors commented that my analysis was the most comprehensive examination of judicial infrastructure they had encountered, and they requested additional research on specific implementation strategies. That meeting marked the beginning of my transformation from courthouse analyst to infrastructure planning consultant. The board authorized funding for expanded feasibility studies and invited me to coordinate with architects, engineers, and construction consultants who could refine my proposals into actionable plans. My family remained largely unaware of these developments because I had learned to describe my work in generic terms that discouraged further inquiry. When asked about my job, I mentioned filing court documents and managing schedules, which confirmed their assumptions about my limited responsibilities and modest career aspirations. The truth was that I was developing expertise in judicial administration, public finance, and infrastructure development that positioned me for opportunities my family could not imagine. While they focused on their individual business ventures, I was learning to navigate complex political and financial systems that controlled resources worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The irony of their dismissive attitude was becoming increasingly apparent to me. Marcus boasted about closing real estate deals worth millions of dollars, but I was developing proposals that could transform how an entire county delivered judicial services. Jade celebrated marketing campaigns that increased brand awareness, but I was creating systems that would improve access to justice for hundreds of thousands of residents. Their inability to recognize the significance of my work was partly due to their limited understanding of how government systems functioned. They viewed public sector employment as inherently less valuable than private enterprise, failing to comprehend that public infrastructure projects often involved larger budgets and more complex challenges than typical business ventures. This misunderstanding worked to my advantage by allowing me to develop my expertise without family interference or misguided advice. I could pursue projects based on my own assessment of their potential rather than constantly defending my choices against relatives who measured success exclusively through immediate financial returns. My evening routine became a discipline of continuous learning. After finishing my official courthouse responsibilities, I would spend hours researching best practices in judicial administration, studying successful infrastructure projects in other jurisdictions, and developing financial models that demonstrated the long-term benefits of strategic public investment. The local library became my second office, where I could access academic journals and government reports that informed my understanding of how other communities had addressed similar challenges. I attended webinars hosted by judicial administration organizations, participated in online forums where court administrators shared innovative solutions, and gradually built a network of professionals who recognized the value of my analytical approach. This period of intensive preparation was invisible to my family, who saw only that I worked regular hours at the courthouse and spent my evenings reading legal documents. They interpreted this routine as evidence of my limited ambition rather than recognizing it as strategic preparation for opportunities they could not envision. The foundation I was building during these months of apparent invisibility would soon support achievements that would fundamentally change how my family perceived both my capabilities and my career trajectory. But for now, I was content to let them maintain their illusions while I developed the expertise and relationships that would define my future success. In quiet moments, I reflected on how this period of being underestimated was actually providing me with invaluable advantages. Without the pressure of family expectations or the distraction of their advice, I could focus entirely on mastering skills that would serve me throughout my career. Their dismissive attitude was inadvertently creating the perfect environment for my professional development. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The courthouse had become more than my workplace. It was my training ground, my laboratory, and my gateway to understanding how legal institutions could be transformed through strategic thinking and persistent effort. While my family focused on immediate gratification and visible success, I was building capabilities that would enable achievements they had never imagined possible. Every day brought new opportunities to observe how judicial systems functioned, to identify problems that could be solved through innovative approaches, and to develop relationships with professionals who valued competence over charisma. The foundation was nearly complete, and soon the opportunities one had been preparing for would begin to emerge. But until that moment arrived, I was content to remain the overlooked sister who worked at the courthouse, filing papers and answering phones. Their underestimation was my greatest asset, and I intended to use it to full advantage. The moment that would change everything arrived on a Tuesday morning in March, disguised as routine administrative business. The Riverside County Board of Supervisors had scheduled a special session to address what they termed critical infrastructure deficiencies affecting courthouse operations throughout the county. Media coverage was minimal, and public attendance was sparse, as most residents remained unaware that their judicial system was facing a crisis that threatened to compromise access to justice for the entire region. I arrived at the county administrative building 90 minutes before the scheduled hearing, carrying 3 thick binders containing analysis that represented 18 months of detailed research. My hands trembled slightly as I reviewed my presentation notes, understanding that this meeting could either validate years of preparation or confirm my family's assessment that I had wasted my talents on bureaucratic irrelevance. The boardroom gradually filled with county officials, court administrators, and representatives from architectural firms that had submitted preliminary proposals for courthouse renovations. I recognized most of the participants from previous meetings, but several faces were unfamiliar, suggesting that word of the infrastructure crisis had reached decision-makers who typically delegated such matters to subordinates. Supervisor Patricia Williams called the session to order precisely at 9 o'clock, her voice carrying the weariness of someone who had spent months wrestling with problems that seemed to have no acceptable solutions. She outlined the situation with characteristic directness. The county's primary courthouse was structurally unsound, the auxiliary facilities were inadequate for current caseloads, and the budget allocated for renovations was insufficient to address fundamental deficiencies. The first hour consisted of presentations from 3 architectural firms, each proposing different approaches to renovating existing facilities within the constraints of available funding. Their proposals were competent but uninspiring, offering temporary solutions that would require additional investment within a decade while failing to address underlying operational inefficiencies. As each presentation concluded, board members asked increasingly pointed questions about long-term costs, maintenance requirements, and whether proposed renovations would actually solve the problems they were intended to address. The architects provided diplomatic responses that acknowledged limitations while emphasizing the benefits of their specific approaches, but their answers revealed the fundamental inadequacy of trying to solve 21st-century problems with patches applied to mid-20th century infrastructure. When Supervisor Williams announced that the board would hear additional input before deliberating, I stood and requested permission to present alternative analysis. Several board members exchanged glances, clearly uncertain about who I was or why I believed my input would be valuable. Judge Thornton, who had attended as an observer, nodded encouragingly as Supervisor Williams granted permission for my presentation. I approached the podium with confidence born from thorough preparation, understanding that this moment represented the culmination of everything I had learned about judicial administration, public finance, and infrastructure development. The analysis I was about to present would either establish my credibility as someone who could solve complex problems or confirm that I was an ambitious clerk who had overestimated her capabilities. My opening statement was designed to reframe the entire discussion. Rather than viewing courthouse problems as isolated facility issues, I proposed that the board consider judicial infrastructure as part of a comprehensive system that affected economic development, public safety, and community growth throughout Riverside County. This perspective transformed what appeared to be a maintenance problem into a strategic opportunity for regional improvement. The data I presented had been gathered through months of research into comparable counties that had faced similar infrastructure challenges. I showed how communities that invested in modern judicial facilities experienced improved business confidence, increased property values, and enhanced quality of life that attracted employers and residents who valued efficient government services. My analysis demonstrated that the cost of comprehensive facility replacement would be recovered within 12 years through operational savings, increased tax revenue from economic development, and reduced maintenance expenses. More importantly, new facilities designed according to current best practices would provide superior service delivery while accommodating projected population growth for the next 30 years. The board members leaned forward as I presented detailed financial projections showing how municipal bond financing could fund complete facility replacement while maintaining current tax rates. My research had identified federal and state grant programs that could offset construction costs by up to 30%, and I had already initiated preliminary discussions with program administrators about application requirements. But the most compelling aspect of my presentation involved operational improvements that would result from modern facility design. I showed how improved case management systems, enhanced security features, and better public accessibility would reduce processing times, increase court capacity, and improve user satisfaction while reducing staffing requirements. Supervisor Williams interrupted my presentation to ask how I had developed such comprehensive expertise in judicial administration and public finance. I explained my background working with Judge Thornton, my research into best practices from other jurisdictions, and my analysis of federal policies that supported courthouse modernization initiatives. The questions that followed revealed the depth of preparation that had made my presentation possible. Board members asked about specific construction timelines, environmental impact assessments, public-private partnership opportunities, and integration with existing county facilities. I answered each inquiry with detailed information that demonstrated not only that I had anticipated their concerns, but that I had already developed solutions for implementation challenges they had not yet considered. Judge Thornton requested permission to address the board, offering observations about my work that carried significant weight given her reputation for demanding excellence. She explained that my analysis represented the most thorough examination of judicial infrastructure issues she had encountered in 30 years of court service, and she recommended that the board authorize comprehensive feasibility studies based on my proposals. The discussion continued for another hour, with board members exploring various aspects of my recommendations and requesting additional research on specific implementation strategies. It became clear that my presentation had fundamentally changed their understanding of what was possible within existing budget constraints and available financing mechanisms. Supervisor Williams announced that the board would authorize funding for expanded feasibility studies and would engage consultants to refine my proposals into detailed implementation plans. More significantly, she appointed me to serve as the county's coordinator for courthouse modernization, a position that would place me at the center of the largest infrastructure project in Riverside County's history. The appointment represented validation that years of preparation had positioned me for opportunities that my family had considered impossible. While they viewed my courthouse work as evidence of limited ambition, county officials recognized my expertise as exactly what they needed to solve problems that had frustrated previous administrations. As the meeting concluded, several board members approached to discuss specific aspects of my presentation and to request additional research on related topics. Representatives from architectural firms introduced themselves and expressed interest in collaborating on proposal development, recognizing that my analysis would influence how projects were structured and evaluated. Judge Thornton waited until other participants had left before offering congratulations that carried deeper meaning than simple professional courtesy. She explained that my presentation had impressed officials who were accustomed to receiving incomplete analysis and unrealistic recommendations from consultants who lacked understanding of how judicial systems actually functioned. The drive back to the courthouse provided time to process what had just occurred. In less than 3 hours, I had transformed from an overlooked analyst to the coordinator of a project that would reshape how Riverside County delivered judicial services. The recognition felt surreal after years of being dismissed by family members who measured success exclusively through immediate financial returns and social status. That evening, I called Judge Thornton to discuss next steps and to seek guidance about managing responsibilities that extended far beyond anything I had previously undertaken. Her advice was characteristically direct. Focus on developing the same systematic approach to project management that had made my analysis compelling, surround myself with competent professionals who shared my commitment to excellence, and remember that successful implementation would require political skills as well as technical expertise. The conversation reinforced my understanding that this opportunity represented both validation of past preparation and the beginning of challenges that would test capabilities I had not yet fully developed. Leading a multi-million-dollar infrastructure project would require skills in contract negotiation, stakeholder management, and political navigation that I would need to develop while maintaining the analytical rigor that had earned initial recognition. My family remained unaware of these developments because I had not yet determined how to explain the magnitude of what was occurring. Their understanding of my work was so limited that describing my new responsibilities would require extensive background explanation that might seem like boasting rather than sharing important news. The irony was becoming increasingly apparent. While Marcus built his real estate business one property at a time and Jay developed marketing campaigns for individual clients, I was coordinating infrastructure development that would affect hundreds of thousands of residents for decades. Yet their perception of my career remained unchanged because they had never bothered to understand what my work actually involved. This disconnect between perception and reality was about to become even more pronounced as my responsibilities expanded to include coordination with federal agencies, oversight of architectural and engineering consultants, and presentation to regional planning committees that included officials from multiple counties. The recognition I had received from the Board of Supervisors was gratifying, but it was only the beginning of a process that would ultimately determine whether my vision for judicial infrastructure could be successfully implemented. The real test would come through managing the complex political, financial, and technical challenges that accompanied any major public construction project. During the following weeks, my schedule filled with meetings that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. I found myself consulting with bond attorneys about financing structures, reviewing architectural proposals with design teams, and presenting project updates to state officials who controlled grant funding that could reduce construction costs significantly. Each meeting reinforced my understanding that the expertise I had developed through years of quiet preparation was exactly what was needed to navigate the complex requirements of large-scale infrastructure development. While others brought specialized knowledge in specific areas, I was the only participant who understood how all the pieces needed to fit together to create a comprehensive solution. The validation was profound, but also sobering. I was beginning to understand that success would require not only maintaining the analytical excellence that had earned initial recognition, but also developing leadership capabilities that could guide diverse stakeholders towards shared objectives while managing inevitable conflicts and competing priorities. My evenings became focused on studying successful infrastructure projects from other jurisdictions, learning about best practices in public project management, and developing relationships with professionals who could provide guidance about challenges I had not yet encountered. The preparation that had carried me this far would need to expand significantly to support the responsibilities I was assuming. The foundation was complete, and the recognition had arrived. Now the real work would begin, and with it, the opportunity to prove that my family's assessment of my limitations had been as wrong as their understanding of my capabilities had been incomplete. The next phase would test everything I had learned and reveal whether preparation could indeed overcome any obstacle when combined with unwavering commitment to excellence. 3 weeks after my appointment as Courthouse Modernization Coordinator, I received an unexpected phone call that would fundamentally alter my understanding of what was possible in public infrastructure development. The caller identified herself as Dr. Catherine Morrison, former Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court and current Director of the National Institute for Judicial Administration, requesting a meeting to discuss my courthouse modernization proposals. Dr. Morrison explained that my presentation to the Riverside County Board of Supervisors had attracted attention from judicial administrators throughout California who were struggling with similar infrastructure challenges but lacked comprehensive frameworks for addressing them systematically. The National Institute was developing a pilot program to support innovative courthouse projects, and my analysis had been recommended as a potential model for other jurisdictions. The meeting was scheduled for the following week at Dr. Morrison's office in San Francisco, located within the historic federal courthouse that had been meticulously restored to demonstrate how modern functionality could be integrated with architectural preservation. I spent the intervening days researching Dr. Morrison's background and preparing materials that would demonstrate the depth of analysis underlying my recommendations. Dr. Morrison's career represented the pinnacle of judicial administration excellence. She had served 15 years on the California Supreme Court before transitioning to academic and policy work focused on improving court systems nationwide. Her publications on judicial modernization were considered essential reading for anyone serious about infrastructure reform, and her consulting work had influenced courthouse projects across multiple states. The San Francisco meeting began with Dr. Morrison reviewing my analysis with the methodical precision that had characterized her judicial opinions. She asked probing questions about methodology, data sources, and assumptions that tested whether my conclusions could withstand rigorous scrutiny. The examination was intense but respectful, designed to determine whether my work represented genuine innovation or merely competent application of existing practices. After 2 hours of detailed discussion, Dr. Morrison offered an assessment that exceeded my most optimistic expectations. She explained that my integration of financial analysis, operational planning, and community impact evaluation represented exactly the kind of comprehensive thinking that judicial administrators needed but rarely encountered. Most infrastructure projects focused on immediate functional requirements while neglecting long-term sustainability and community benefits. Dr. Morrison proposed that I participate in a leadership development program designed for professionals who were pioneering innovative approaches to judicial administration. The program would provide access to expertise from across the country, opportunities to study successful projects in detail, and connections with decision-makers who could support ambitious modernization initiatives. The leadership program required a 6-month commitment involving monthly seminars in different cities, extensive research projects, and collaboration with participants from other jurisdictions who were addressing similar challenges. Dr. Morrison emphasized that selection was highly competitive and that participation would significantly expand my capabilities while establishing relationships that would prove valuable throughout my career. I accepted the opportunity immediately, understanding that Dr. Morrison's mentorship would provide access to knowledge and connections that no amount of independent research could duplicate. The Riverside County Board of Supervisors supported my participation, recognizing that enhanced expertise would benefit their courthouse project while positioning the county as a leader in judicial modernization. The first seminar was held in Denver, where participants examined a courthouse project that had achieved exceptional results through innovative design and community engagement strategies. I met professionals from across the country who were managing similar initiatives, each bringing unique perspectives shaped by different political environments, budget constraints, and community needs. Dr. Morrison structured the seminars to combine theoretical learning with practical application. Participants analyzed case studies of successful and unsuccessful projects, identifying factors that determined outcomes and developing frameworks for avoiding common pitfalls. The discussions revealed patterns that were invisible when examining individual projects but became clear when comparing multiple experiences across different contexts. The mentorship extended beyond formal seminars to include regular conversations with Dr. Morrison about specific challenges and opportunities. She had navigated the complex political dynamics of public infrastructure projects throughout her career and could provide guidance about managing stakeholder relationships, securing sustained funding, and maintaining project momentum through inevitable changes in political leadership. Dr. Morrison's most valuable contribution was helping me understand that successful infrastructure projects required more than technical excellence. She emphasized that sustainable change depended on building coalitions of support that could survive political transitions, creating systems that were so obviously beneficial that future leaders would be reluctant to dismantle them, and establishing standards of performance that became expectations rather than aspirations. Through Dr. Morrison's network, I gained access to federal officials who administered grant programs supporting courthouse modernization. These relationships proved crucial when developing funding strategies for the Riverside project, as I learned about application processes, evaluation criteria, and implementation requirements that were not publicly documented but were essential for success. The leadership program also provided opportunities to observe how other participants approached similar challenges. I learned innovative financing mechanisms from a colleague in Oregon, stakeholder engagement strategies from a participant in Florida, and project management techniques from someone managing multiple courthouse projects in Texas. Each interaction expanded my toolkit while demonstrating that successful approaches could be adapted across different political and economic contexts. Dr. Morrison's guidance proved particularly valuable when the Riverside project encountered its first significant political challenge. A newly elected county supervisor questioned whether courthouse modernization should be a budget priority during a period of economic uncertainty, suggesting that funds would be better allocated to direct service programs rather than infrastructure improvements. Dr. Morrison helped me develop a response strategy that addressed both the supervisor's immediate concerns and the broader question of how infrastructure investment supported community well-being. She recommended focusing on economic development benefits, job creation during construction, and long-term operational savings that would free resources for other county priorities. The strategy was successful because it demonstrated understanding of political realities while maintaining focus on project benefits. Dr. Morrison's coaching had prepared me to engage with criticism constructively rather than defensively, viewing opposition as an opportunity to strengthen project support through more comprehensive communication about benefits and outcomes. As the leadership program progressed, Dr. Morrison began involving me in consulting projects that allowed application of developing expertise to real-world challenges. I provided analysis for courthouse projects in other states, participated in federal policy discussions about judicial infrastructure standards, and contributed to research that would influence future funding programs. These experiences reinforced lessons from the formal curriculum while providing deeper understanding of how judicial modernization affected different communities. I learned that successful projects required careful attention to local political dynamics, community values, and economic conditions that varied significantly across jurisdictions. Dr. Morrison's mentorship also addressed personal development aspects of leadership that academic training had not covered. She provided guidance about managing the pressures of high-visibility projects, maintaining work-life balance during demanding implementation phases, and developing communication skills that could engage diverse audiences effectively. The relationship with Dr. Morrison transformed my understanding of career possibilities within public service. I had initially viewed the Riverside Courthouse project as a significant professional achievement, but through her mentorship, I began to understand that it could serve as a foundation for influencing judicial infrastructure development throughout California and potentially at the national level. Dr. Morrison introduced me to other professionals who had built careers around public sector innovation, demonstrating that government service could provide opportunities for impact and advancement that rivaled private sector alternatives. These role models had achieved recognition for solving complex problems while serving community interests, creating legacies that extended far beyond individual financial success. The mentorship culminated with Dr. Morrison's invitation to co-author a research paper examining innovative financing mechanisms for courthouse modernization. The paper would be published in the premier journal for judicial administrators and would establish my expertise within the national professional community. Dr. Morrison explained that academic publication was essential for building credibility that would support future leadership opportunities. The research collaboration required months of intensive work analyzing financing strategies from successful projects across multiple states. Dr. Morrison's editorial guidance elevated the quality of analysis while teaching me to communicate complex concepts in ways that would influence policy discussions and funding decisions. When the paper was published, it attracted attention from federal officials who were developing new grant programs and from professional organizations that were updating best practice guidelines. Dr. Morrison ensured that I received appropriate credit for the research while using her reputation to amplify the impact of our recommendations. The publication established my credentials within the judicial administration community and led to speaking invitations at national conferences. Dr. Morrison encouraged me to accept these opportunities, understanding that visibility within the professional community would create options for career advancement that might not emerge through local success alone. By the conclusion of the leadership program, my relationship with Dr. Morrison had evolved from formal mentorship to collegial collaboration. She continued to provide guidance about strategic decisions while treating me as a professional peer whose expertise complemented her own experience. The transformation reflected growth in capabilities that would have been impossible without her investment in my development. Dr. Morrison's mentorship had provided more than technical knowledge and professional connections. She had demonstrated how public service could be a vehicle for meaningful achievement and how individual excellence could create opportunities to influence systems that affected millions of people. Her example inspired confidence that my career path could lead to impact and recognition that exceeded anything my family had considered possible. The foundation of expertise I had built independently was essential, but Dr. Morrison's mentorship had accelerated development that might have taken decades to achieve through experience alone. Her guidance had transformed my understanding of what was possible while providing practical tools for turning ambitious visions into implemented realities. As I prepared to apply these lessons to the Riverside Courthouse project, I understood that Dr. Morrison's mentorship represented more than professional development. It was an investment in my potential that carried responsibility to achieve excellence that would justify her confidence while creating opportunities to mentor others who were beginning their own journeys toward leadership in public service. The breakthrough that would distinguish the Riverside Courthouse project from every other judicial facility in California emerged from a problem that had frustrated architects and planners for months. Traditional courthouse design prioritized security and functionality while treating public accessibility as an afterthought, creating buildings that felt more like fortresses than institutions dedicated to serving community justice needs. During a particularly challenging design review meeting, I observed the tension between security requirements and public service objectives that seemed to create irreconcilable conflicts. The architects proposed designs that met safety standards but created barriers that would intimidate citizens seeking legal services. Court administrators demanded efficiency features that would isolate judicial proceedings from community engagement. Security consultants recommended protocols that would transform public areas into sterile processing zones. The conventional approach accepted these trade-offs as inevitable compromises inherent to courthouse design. I recognized an opportunity to challenge this assumption by developing an integrated framework that could achieve security, efficiency, and accessibility simultaneously rather than balancing competing priorities through partial sacrifices. My analysis began with examining how other public buildings managed similar challenges. Libraries provided secure environments while maintaining welcoming atmospheres that encouraged public use. Hospitals protected sensitive areas while ensuring easy navigation for visitors under stress. Museums controlled access to valuable collections while creating educational experiences that enriched community cultural life. The research revealed design principles that could be adapted to judicial facilities without compromising essential security requirements. Advanced technology could provide comprehensive monitoring while maintaining open sightlines that made spaces feel transparent rather than restrictive. Architectural elements could guide traffic flow naturally, while eliminating the need for intrusive barriers that created adversarial relationships between staff and visitors. I developed a comprehensive proposal that reimagined courthouse design around the principle of informed accessibility. Rather than restricting public access through physical barriers, the design would educate visitors about judicial processes while providing clear guidance about appropriate behavior and available services. This approach would transform courthouse visits from intimidating encounters with bureaucratic authority into educational experiences that strengthen community understanding of legal institutions. The proposal included interactive displays that explained court procedures, self-service kiosks that provided information about legal resources, and designated areas where citizens could receive assistance from trained volunteers. These features would reduce demands on court staff while improving public satisfaction with judicial services and enhancing community support for court operations. The innovation extended beyond public areas to include revolutionary approaches to case management and administrative efficiency. I proposed integrating artificial intelligence systems that could schedule hearings more effectively, predict resource requirements more accurately, and identify potential conflicts before they disrupted operations. These technological improvements would increase court capacity while reducing costs and improving service quality. The most significant innovation involved creating flexible spaces that could adapt to changing needs without requiring expensive renovations. Modular courtroom designs would allow configuration adjustments based on case types and hearing requirements. Administrative areas would incorporate technology infrastructure that could support future upgrades without disrupting ongoing operations. Public spaces would include features that could accommodate community events that would strengthen relationships between courts and citizens. When I presented this integrated design framework to the project team, the initial response was skeptical. Architects questioned whether innovative features would comply with established security standards. Court administrators wondered whether public engagement initiatives would create operational complications. Budget analysts challenged whether technological investments would generate sufficient savings to justify additional costs. I addressed these concerns through detailed research that demonstrated successful implementation of similar innovations in other contexts. The analysis included specific examples of courthouse projects that had achieved superior security through technological solutions rather than physical barriers, case studies of courts that had improved efficiency through intelligent automation systems, and documentation of community engagement programs that had enhanced public support while reducing operational burdens. The breakthrough came when I arranged site visits to courthouses that had implemented elements of my proposed framework. Seeing functional examples of innovative design features convinced skeptical team members that unconventional approaches could deliver superior results while meeting all regulatory requirements and operational standards. The first site visit was to a recently completed courthouse in Portland that had integrated community engagement features with advanced security systems. The facility demonstrated how transparent design could enhance safety by improving visibility, while creating an atmosphere that encouraged respectful behavior rather than enforcing compliance through intimidation. Court officials in Portland reported that their innovative design had reduced security incidents while increasing public satisfaction with judicial services. Citizens expressed greater confidence in court fairness and accessibility, which translated into higher compliance with court orders and reduced need for enforcement actions. The facility had become a source of community pride rather than an imposing symbol of governmental authority. The second site visit examined a courthouse in Phoenix that had implemented intelligent case management systems similar to those I had proposed for Riverside. The technology had increased court capacity by 30% while reducing administrative costs and improving scheduling accuracy. Judges reported higher satisfaction with support services, and attorneys praised the efficiency improvements that reduced client costs and case processing times. These site visits provided compelling evidence that innovative approaches could deliver measurable benefits while maintaining the highest standards of security and judicial propriety. The project team returned from these visits with enthusiasm for implementing similar innovations in the Riverside Courthouse, transforming skepticism into advocacy for ambitious design objectives. Dr. Morrison provided crucial support during this innovation phase by connecting me with experts who had pioneered courthouse design innovations in other states. These consultations provided technical guidance about implementation challenges while validating the feasibility of my proposed framework. Her endorsement also carried significant weight with Riverside County officials who might otherwise have been reluctant to approve unconventional approaches. The development process required months of intensive collaboration with specialists in architecture, technology, security, and public administration. Each consultation refined specific elements of the design while maintaining overall coherence of the integrated framework. The complexity was immense, but the systematic approach I had developed through years of analytical training enabled effective coordination of diverse expertise areas. The innovation phase also required developing new evaluation criteria that could measure success across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Traditional courthouse projects focused primarily on construction costs and completion timelines, but the Riverside project needed metrics that could assess community engagement effectiveness, technological performance improvements, and long-term operational benefits. I created comprehensive evaluation frameworks that would track project outcomes across financial, operational, and community impact categories. These metrics would provide data necessary for demonstrating project success while generating insights that could inform future courthouse development initiatives in other jurisdictions. The most challenging aspect of the innovation phase involved anticipating implementation obstacles that could undermine project success even if design concepts were sound. I developed detailed contingency plans for technology failures, budget overruns, political opposition, and community resistance that might emerge during construction or initial operations. These risk management strategies demonstrated thorough preparation while providing project stakeholders with confidence that innovative approaches would not jeopardize essential courthouse functions. The planning also identified early warning indicators that would enable rapid response to emerging problems before they became critical threats to project success. When the complete innovation framework was presented to the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, the response exceeded even optimistic expectations. Board members recognized that the proposal positioned Riverside County as a national leader in courthouse modernization while delivering superior value for taxpayer investment. The framework addressed every concern that had been raised during previous meetings while providing benefits that traditional approaches could not achieve. The board authorized implementation of the full innovation framework and requested that I coordinate with state and federal officials about showcasing the Riverside project as a model for other jurisdictions. This recognition validated the months of intensive development work while creating opportunities for broader influence within the judicial administration community. Media coverage of the innovative courthouse design attracted attention from architecture and public administration publications that featured the Riverside project as an example of how creative thinking could solve problems that had seemed intractable through conventional approaches. The publicity enhanced my professional reputation while demonstrating that government projects could achieve excellence through systematic innovation rather than accepting mediocrity as inevitable. The success of the innovation phase established my credibility as someone who could develop original solutions rather than simply implementing existing practices. This recognition opened opportunities for consulting with other jurisdictions that wanted to incorporate similar innovations into their own courthouse projects, creating a network of professional relationships that would prove valuable throughout my career. Dr. Morrison observed that the innovation framework represented exactly the kind of systematic thinking that could transform judicial administration if applied broadly across multiple states. She encouraged me to document the development process in detail so that other professionals could understand how integrated approaches could be developed for different contexts and challenges. The innovation phase had transformed my understanding of what was possible within public sector constraints. Rather than accepting limitations as fixed parameters, I had learned to view constraints as design challenges that could be addressed through creative problem-solving and systematic analysis. This perspective would prove essential as the project moved from conceptual development to actual implementation, where new challenges would test the practical viability of innovative approaches. The framework I had developed represented more than architectural and technological improvements. It embodied a philosophy of public service that viewed citizens as partners rather than subjects, technology as an enabler rather than a barrier, and innovation as a responsibility rather than a luxury. These principles would guide decision-making throughout the implementation phase while establishing standards that could influence courthouse development far beyond Riverside County. The first serious threat to the courthouse modernization project arrived through an unexpected channel that demonstrated how quickly political winds could shift in county government. 3 months after the Board of Supervisors had unanimously approved the innovative design framework, a newly formed citizens group called the Riverside Taxpayer Alliance began challenging the project's cost and questioning whether courthouse modernization should receive priority during a period of economic uncertainty. The opposition was led by Harold Matthews, a retired businessman who had built a reputation for opposing public expenditures that he characterized as wasteful government spending. Matthews had successfully blocked several county initiatives over the past decade by mobilizing voters who were suspicious of large infrastructure projects and skeptical of claims about long-term economic benefits that required immediate tax increases. The Taxpayer Alliance launched their campaign with a series of public meetings designed to generate opposition to courthouse modernization by focusing exclusively on construction costs while ignoring operational savings and community benefits. Matthews presented simplified analyses that portrayed the project as an unnecessary luxury that would burden taxpayers with debt while providing benefits primarily to government employees and construction contractors. The strategy was politically effective because it appealed to voters who were struggling with their own financial challenges and were naturally suspicious of government claims about project necessity. Matthews skillfully framed the debate as a choice between fiscal responsibility and government waste, avoiding detailed discussion of project benefits while emphasizing immediate costs that would affect property tax rates. The challenge deepened when Matthews obtained copies of preliminary budget projections that showed potential cost overruns if construction material prices increased faster than anticipated. He used these contingency estimates to argue that the project was poorly planned and would inevitably exceed budget allocations, creating financial burdens that would require additional tax increases or cuts to essential services. The media coverage amplified Matthews' arguments while providing limited space for detailed explanations of project benefits and risk management strategies. Newspaper headlines focused on potential cost overruns and tax implications rather than operational improvements and long-term savings that would result from courthouse modernization. Television news segments featured Matthews' soundbites about government waste without providing equivalent time for project supporters to explain comprehensive benefits. The political pressure intensified when 2 county supervisors who had originally supported the project began expressing reservations about proceeding during uncertain economic conditions. Supervisor David Chen, who faced re-election in 18 months, privately indicated that he might withdraw support unless public opposition could be addressed effectively. Supervisor Maria Rodriguez requested additional analysis demonstrating that project benefits would justify costs even under pessimistic economic scenarios. I recognized that responding to this challenge would require more than technical arguments about project merits. The opposition had succeeded in framing the debate around immediate costs versus uncertain benefits, creating political dynamics that favored project opponents regardless of analytical evidence supporting courthouse modernization. Overcoming this opposition would require reframing the discussion while addressing legitimate concerns about fiscal responsibility. My response strategy began with comprehensive analysis of the economic impact that courthouse modernization would generate throughout Riverside County. Rather than simply defending project costs, I developed detailed projections showing how construction activity would create employment opportunities, how improved judicial services would attract business investment, and how operational efficiencies would reduce long-term government expenses. The analysis demonstrated that courthouse modernization would generate over 800 construction jobs during the building phase, supporting approximately 2,000 additional positions in related industries through multiplier effects. The project would also create permanent employment for security, maintenance, and administrative staff while reducing operational costs that currently diverted resources from direct service delivery. More significantly, the improved judicial services would enhance Riverside County's attractiveness for business development by providing efficient resolution of commercial disputes, reliable contract enforcement, and accessible legal services that companies required for confident operation. These business climate improvements would generate tax revenue increases that would recover project costs within 12 years while providing ongoing fiscal benefits for decades. I also addressed the cost overrun concerns by implementing enhanced project management protocols that would provide early warning of potential budget pressures while establishing contingency reserves adequate to address material price fluctuations. The analysis showed that these risk management strategies would limit county exposure while ensuring project completion within approved budget parameters. The comprehensive economic impact analysis provided foundation for a communication strategy designed to shift public discussion from abstract cost concerns to concrete community benefits. Rather than defending government spending in general terms, I could demonstrate specific ways that courthouse modernization would strengthen local economic development while improving services that affected every county resident. Dr. Morrison provided crucial guidance during this challenging period by sharing experiences from other courthouse projects that had faced similar political opposition. She explained that public infrastructure initiatives inevitably attracted criticism from taxpayer groups and that successful project advocates learned to address opposition through enhanced communication rather than dismissive responses to legitimate concerns. Her advice focused on building coalitions of support that could counter organized opposition through grassroots advocacy. Business organizations would support projects that improved commercial legal services, labor unions would advocate for construction employment opportunities, and community groups would endorse improvements in public service accessibility. These diverse constituencies could provide political cover for elected officials who wanted to support beneficial projects despite vocal opposition. The coalition-building effort required months of intensive outreach to organizations throughout Riverside County that would benefit from courthouse modernization. I presented customized analyses to different groups, emphasizing specific benefits that aligned with their priorities while demonstrating how project success would advance their organizational objectives. The Chamber of Commerce endorsed the project after reviewing analysis showing how improved judicial services would reduce business costs and enhance economic development prospects. The Building Trades Council supported construction employment opportunities while emphasizing skilled worker training programs that would be included in project implementation. The League of Women Voters advocated for accessibility improvements that would enhance public participation in judicial proceedings. These endorsements provided credible third-party validation of project benefits while demonstrating broad community support that extended beyond government officials and courthouse employees. The coalition also generated volunteer advocates who could attend public meetings and communicate project benefits through personal networks that were more trusted than official government sources. The challenge also required direct engagement with Matthews and the Taxpayer Alliance to address their specific concerns rather than simply opposing their campaign. I requested meetings where I could present detailed analysis while listening to their perspectives about fiscal responsibility and government accountability. These conversations revealed legitimate concerns about project oversight and cost control that could be addressed through enhanced transparency and public reporting. I proposed establishing a citizen oversight committee that would monitor project progress and provide independent analysis of budget performance and construction quality. The committee would include representatives from the Taxpayer Alliance along with other community organizations, ensuring diverse perspectives while creating accountability mechanisms that would satisfy concerns about government waste and mismanagement. The Oversight Committee proposal demonstrated responsiveness to legitimate concerns while maintaining project momentum. Matthews agreed to suspend active opposition pending establishment of the committee and implementation of enhanced reporting requirements that would provide public access to detailed financial information throughout project development. The resolution of this challenge required significant modifications to project implementation plans, but these changes ultimately strengthened community support while improving accountability mechanisms. The Citizen Oversight Committee became a model for other counties facing similar political dynamics, and the enhanced transparency protocols generated trust that facilitated smoother implementation of subsequent project phases. The experience taught valuable lessons about managing political opposition to innovative public projects. Technical excellence and analytical rigor were necessary but insufficient for overcoming organized resistance to government initiatives. Success required building broad coalitions of support, addressing legitimate concerns about fiscal responsibility, and demonstrating responsiveness to community input even when criticism seemed unfair or uninformed. Dr. Morrison observed that navigating political opposition was an essential skill for anyone seeking to implement transformational public projects. She emphasized that challenges like the Taxpayer Alliance campaign were opportunities to strengthen project foundations while building relationships that would support long-term success. The ability to respond constructively to criticism while maintaining commitment to core objectives distinguished effective public leaders from those who either compromised essential principles or failed to adapt to changing political conditions. The successful resolution of the opposition campaign enhanced my credibility with county officials who had observed my response to significant political pressure. The experience demonstrated that I could manage complex stakeholder relationships while maintaining focus on project objectives, skills that would prove essential as courthouse modernization moved from planning to implementation phases. The challenge also reinforced my understanding that public sector leadership required different capabilities than private sector management. While business leaders could often implement decisions through hierarchical authority, public sector initiatives required building consensus among diverse stakeholders who had competing priorities and different definitions of success. These political skills complemented analytical expertise while expanding my effectiveness as a project coordinator. Most importantly, the opposition campaign validated the importance of comprehensive preparation and systematic thinking that had characterized my approach throughout the courthouse modernization project. The challenge had tested every aspect of project planning while revealing strengths and weaknesses that could be addressed before implementation began. The experience strengthened my confidence that thorough preparation could overcome obstacles that might otherwise seem insurmountable. The successful resolution of the Taxpayer Alliance opposition revealed the limitations of working within traditional county government structures to implement transformational change. While Riverside County provided essential political support and funding authorization, the courthouse modernization project required expertise and resources that extended far beyond what any single jurisdiction could provide independently. Dr. Morrison recognized this challenge and introduced me to the Western States Judicial Modernization Consortium, a newly formed alliance of court administrators, technology specialists, and policy experts who were collaborating to address infrastructure challenges affecting multiple states simultaneously. The consortium represented an innovative approach to sharing costs and expertise across jurisdictions that faced similar problems but lacked individual capacity to develop comprehensive solutions. The consortium had emerged from recognition that courthouse modernization required capabilities that were too expensive for individual counties to develop independently. Advanced security technologies, intelligent case management systems, and innovative architectural designs involved substantial research and development costs that could be distributed across multiple projects while generating superior results for all participants. My invitation to join the consortium reflected recognition that the Riverside project incorporated innovations that could benefit other jurisdictions while our implementation could be strengthened through collaboration with professionals who were addressing similar challenges in different contexts. The partnership would provide access to expertise and resources that would have been impossible to obtain through traditional consulting relationships. The first consortium meeting was held in Phoenix, where representatives from 12 Western states presented their most significant courthouse modernization challenges and shared innovative solutions that had emerged from recent projects. The discussions revealed patterns of problems and opportunities that were consistent across different political and economic environments, suggesting that collaborative approaches could generate benefits for all participants. I presented the Riverside Integrated Design Framework to consortium members who immediately recognized applications for their own jurisdictions. The combination of enhanced security through technology rather than barriers, community engagement through educational features, and operational efficiency through intelligent systems addressed challenges that every participant faced while providing approaches that could be adapted to local requirements. The consortium structure enabled resource sharing that dramatically expanded what individual projects could accomplish. Technology companies that might provide limited customization for single courthouse projects offered comprehensive development support when multiple jurisdictions committed to coordinated implementation. Architectural firms could design modular systems that could be adapted across different sites while maintaining cost efficiencies that benefited all participants. Dr. Morrison served as consortium coordinator, leveraging her national reputation and extensive network to attract participation from leading professionals throughout the judicial administration community. Her involvement provided credibility that enabled consortium members to obtain funding and political support that might not have been available for individual initiatives. The collaboration produced immediate benefits for the Riverside project through access to technology solutions that were being developed for other consortium members. A courthouse project in Colorado had pioneered artificial intelligence systems for case scheduling that could be adapted for Riverside implementation. An Oregon initiative had developed community engagement protocols that could enhance our public outreach strategies. A Nevada project had created security technologies that provided comprehensive monitoring while maintaining open architectural designs. These shared innovations reduced development costs for all consortium members while enabling implementation of capabilities that would have been prohibitively expensive for individual projects. The collaboration also provided quality assurance through peer review of proposed solutions and shared lessons learned from implementation experiences across multiple sites. The consortium partnership required establishing formal agreements that defined intellectual property rights, cost-sharing formulas, and coordination protocols that would enable effective collaboration while protecting individual jurisdiction interests. These negotiations revealed the complexity of multi-state cooperation, but also demonstrated the substantial benefits that could be achieved through systematic alliance building. My role within the consortium evolved from project coordinator to strategic planning contributor as other members recognized expertise that had been developed through the Riverside innovation process. The consortium requested that I lead development of evaluation frameworks that could measure project success across multiple dimensions while providing data that would inform future modernization initiatives. The evaluation framework development required synthesizing best practices from public administration, technology assessment, and community engagement measurement into comprehensive approaches that could be applied across different political and economic contexts. The work drew upon methodologies from multiple disciplines while creating new approaches specifically designed for courthouse modernization assessment. The framework addressed financial performance through detailed cost-benefit analysis that tracked both direct project expenses and indirect economic impacts on community development. Operational effectiveness was measured through efficiency indicators that compared processing times, capacity utilization, and service quality before and after modernization implementation. Community impact assessment examined public satisfaction, accessibility improvements, and civic engagement changes that resulted from enhanced courthouse design. Dr. Morrison emphasized that consortium success would depend on developing sustainable relationships that could support long-term collaboration rather than simply coordinating individual projects. This required building trust among participants who represented different political jurisdictions with potentially competing interests while establishing shared objectives that benefited all alliance members. The trust-building process involved transparent sharing of project information, including budget details, implementation challenges, and lessons learned from both successful and unsuccessful initiatives. Consortium members agreed to provide mutual support during political challenges while sharing innovations freely rather than attempting to maintain competitive advantages over alliance partners. The collaboration extended beyond courthouse modernization to include broader judicial administration improvements that could benefit from coordinated implementation. The consortium developed shared approaches to judicial training, court technology standards, and public engagement strategies that could be implemented across multiple states while maintaining consistency that would facilitate interstate legal proceedings. These broader initiatives demonstrated the potential for consortium collaboration to influence judicial administration throughout the western United States while providing individual members with capabilities that would have been impossible to develop independently. The alliance was creating systemic improvements that transcended individual project boundaries. The consortium partnership also provided opportunities for professional development that enhanced my capabilities while expanding career possibilities beyond Riverside County government. Collaboration with professionals from multiple states provided exposure to different approaches to public administration while building relationships that would support future advancement opportunities. Dr. Morrison arranged for me to participate in consortium working groups that were developing policy recommendations for federal agencies that administered courthouse funding programs. These activities provided opportunities to influence national policy while establishing credibility within the professional community that would support long-term career advancement in judicial administration. The working group participation required developing expertise in federal policy processes, grant program administration, and interstate coordination protocols that extended significantly beyond local project management responsibilities. The learning curve was steep, but the knowledge gained would prove essential for future leadership opportunities in judicial modernization. The consortium collaboration culminated with selection of the Riverside Courthouse as the demonstration project for innovative technologies and design approaches that would be evaluated for broader implementation across Alliance member jurisdictions. This designation provided additional funding support while establishing the Riverside project as a model that would influence courthouse development throughout multiple states. The demonstration project designation required enhanced documentation and evaluation protocols that would enable other jurisdictions to understand implementation processes and adapt successful approaches to their specific contexts. The responsibility was significant but provided opportunities to influence judicial modernization far beyond Riverside County boundaries. The Alliance formation had transformed the courthouse modernization project from a local infrastructure improvement into a regional innovation initiative that would influence judicial administration throughout the western United States. The partnership provided resources and expertise that would ensure project success while creating opportunities for broader impact that exceeded anything possible through individual effort. The collaboration with consortium members had also enhanced my understanding of how strategic partnerships could multiply individual capabilities while creating value that benefited all participants. The experience would prove essential as the courthouse project moved toward implementation phases that would require coordination among diverse stakeholders with different priorities and expectations. Most importantly, the consortium partnership demonstrated how excellence in individual projects could attract opportunities for broader influence and collaboration. The systematic approach to innovation and implementation that had characterized the Riverside project development had created credibility that enabled participation in initiatives that would shape judicial modernization policies and practices throughout multiple states. The foundation for transformational change had been established through strategic alliance building that leveraged individual expertise while creating collective capabilities that exceeded what any single jurisdiction could achieve independently. The next phases would test whether these partnerships could deliver the practical results that would validate collaborative approaches to public sector innovation. The success of the consortium partnership revealed that sustainable transformation required more than innovative designs and collaborative relationships. True systemic change demanded comprehensive frameworks that could be replicated, scaled, and adapted across different contexts while maintaining consistent standards of excellence. The challenge was developing systematic approaches that preserved the innovation and flexibility that had made individual projects successful. I recognized that the Riverside Courthouse modernization had succeeded through intensive personal involvement in every aspect of planning and implementation. This hands-on approach ensured quality control and enabled rapid adaptation to emerging challenges, but it also created dependencies that would limit broader application of successful methodologies. Sustainable impact required developing systems that could function effectively without requiring exceptional individual intervention. The first step involved documenting the comprehensive analytical framework that had guided the Riverside project from initial problem identification through innovative solution development. The framework integrated financial analysis, operational planning, community engagement, and technology assessment into systematic approaches that could be adapted to different jurisdictions while maintaining analytical rigor that supported sound decision-making. The documentation process required months of intensive work translating intuitive problem-solving approaches into explicit methodologies that could be understood and applied by professionals with different backgrounds and experience levels. The challenge was preserving the flexibility and creativity that had enabled breakthrough thinking while providing sufficient structure to ensure consistent results across different implementations. Dr. Morrison provided crucial guidance during this systematization effort by emphasizing the importance of balancing comprehensive methodology with practical applicability. She observed that many potentially valuable innovations failed to achieve broader impact because their development processes were too complex or resource-intensive for typical organizations to implement successfully. The analytical framework that emerged from this development process included standardized procedures for conducting community needs assessments, structured approaches to evaluating technology solutions, systematic methods for analyzing cost-benefit relationships, and comprehensive protocols for managing stakeholder engagement throughout project implementation phases. Each component of the framework was designed to function independently, while contributing to integrated analysis that addressed multiple dimensions of courthouse modernization simultaneously. This modular approach enabled organizations to adopt specific elements that addressed their immediate priorities while building capabilities that would support more comprehensive initiatives over time. The framework also incorporated quality assurance mechanisms that would maintain standards while enabling adaptation to local requirements and constraints. Regular evaluation checkpoints provided opportunities to assess progress against established objectives while identifying necessary adjustments to implementation strategies. Peer review protocols enabled external validation of analytical conclusions while building professional networks that supported continuous improvement. The consortium provided an ideal testing environment for validating the systematic framework through application to courthouse projects across multiple states with different political environments, budget constraints, and community requirements. Each implementation generated lessons that refined specific framework components while demonstrating adaptability across diverse contexts. The testing process revealed the importance of providing comprehensive training programs that would enable effective framework application rather than simply distributing documentation and expecting successful implementation. Courthouse modernization required specialized knowledge that combined technical expertise with political understanding and community engagement skills that could not be developed through self-study alone. I developed intensive training curricula that provided both theoretical foundation and practical application experience for professionals who would be responsible for implementing courthouse modernization initiatives in their own jurisdictions. The training programs included case study analysis, simulation exercises, and supervised project development that enabled participants to develop confidence and competence before assuming full implementation responsibility. The training programs attracted participants from throughout the United States and several international jurisdictions that were grappling with similar judicial infrastructure challenges. The diversity of backgrounds and contexts enriched the learning experience while validating the broad applicability of systematic approaches to courthouse modernization. Dr. Morrison observed that the training programs represented exactly the kind of capability building that was essential for sustainable institutional change. Rather than relying on exceptional individuals to drive transformation through personal effort, the systematic approach was developing professional capacity that could support continuous improvement across multiple organizations and jurisdictions. The success of initial training programs led to requests for advanced curricula that addressed specialized aspects of courthouse modernization, including complex financing mechanisms, innovative technology integration, and advanced stakeholder engagement strategies. These programs enabled development of expertise that could support the most challenging aspects of transformation initiatives. The training programs also provided opportunities for ongoing professional development that maintained current knowledge about emerging technologies, evolving best practices, and changing regulatory requirements that affected courthouse modernization projects. The continuous learning approach ensured that trained professionals could adapt their expertise to changing conditions while maintaining effectiveness over long career spans. The systematic framework development culminated with establishment of formal certification programs that provided recognized credentials for professionals who demonstrated mastery of courthouse modernization methodologies. The certification process included comprehensive examination of technical knowledge, practical application through supervised projects, and peer review of professional competence. The certification programs created professional standards that enhance the credibility of courthouse modernization as a specialized field, while providing career advancement opportunities for individuals who invested in developing relevant expertise. The standards also provided assurance to government officials and community leaders that certified professionals possessed the knowledge and capabilities necessary for successful project implementation. The consortium partnership supported development of professional standards through coordinated requirements that were consistent across multiple states while providing flexibility for adaptation to local regulatory environments. This coordination enabled reciprocal recognition of certifications while maintaining quality standards that protected the reputation of the emerging profession. The systematic development work also required creating comprehensive resource libraries that provided current information about available technologies, successful implementation strategies, regulatory requirements, and funding opportunities that could support courthouse modernization initiatives. These resources enabled informed decision-making while reducing the research burden on individual projects. The resource libraries included detailed case studies of successful and unsuccessful courthouse projects with analysis of factors that determined outcomes. This documentation provided valuable learning opportunities while helping new practitioners avoid common pitfalls that had compromised other initiatives. The libraries also provided access to standardized contract templates, evaluation instruments, and project management tools that could be adapted to specific project requirements while maintaining proven approaches that supported successful implementation. These resources reduced development costs while ensuring quality standards across multiple projects. The most significant achievement of the systematic development phase was creating sustainability mechanisms that would ensure continuous improvement and adaptation of methodologies as conditions changed and knowledge advanced. The framework included formal processes for incorporating lessons learned from new implementations while maintaining stability that supported consistent professional practice. Research partnerships with academic institutions provided ongoing analysis of courthouse modernization outcomes while generating insights that could enhance future implementations. These partnerships also supported development of new professionals through graduate programs that combined theoretical education with practical application experience. The systematic development work established courthouse modernization as a recognized field of professional practice with standardized methodologies, training programs, certification processes, and resource libraries that supported effective implementation across diverse contexts. The transformation from individual innovation to systematic practice represented the maturation of ideas that had begun with specific challenges facing Riverside County. Dr. Morrison recognized that the systematic development represented exactly the kind of institutional building that was necessary for sustainable public sector innovation. Rather than depending on exceptional individuals to drive change through personal effort, the systematic approach created capabilities that could support transformation initiatives regardless of individual leadership changes or political transitions. The framework that had emerged from this development process provided foundation for addressing courthouse modernization challenges throughout the United States while maintaining quality standards that would protect public investment and community interests. The systematic approach had transformed innovative ideas into practical tools that could generate consistent results across different contexts and conditions. The success of systematic development validated the importance of investing in capability building rather than simply promoting individual innovations. True transformation required developing institutional capacity that could support continuous improvement while adapting to changing conditions and emerging opportunities. The systematic frameworks and professional standards I had developed for courthouse modernization attracted attention from the highest levels of government when the Department of Justice announced a national initiative to address aging judicial infrastructure throughout the United States. The federal program would provide unprecedented funding for courthouse modernization projects that demonstrated innovative approaches to improving access to justice while reducing operational costs. Secretary of Justice Margaret Thompson personally invited me to serve on the National Courthouse Modernization Advisory Committee, a position that would place me at the center of policy development affecting judicial infrastructure investments worth billions of dollars across all 50 states. The appointment represented recognition that the methodologies developed through the Riverside Project and consortium collaboration had established new standards for excellence in judicial administration. The advisory committee comprised 12 members selected from across the country based on demonstrated expertise in different aspects of courthouse modernization. The group included former federal judges, leading architects specializing in judicial facilities, technology experts who had pioneered courthouse automation systems, and public administration scholars who had studied the relationship between infrastructure quality and justice delivery effectiveness. My appointment as the youngest committee member and the only representative from county-level government reflected the national significance of innovations that had emerged from what others might have considered routine local infrastructure projects. The recognition validated years of systematic work while creating opportunities to influence federal policy affecting thousands of communities throughout the United States. The committee's initial mandate involved developing comprehensive guidelines for federal courthouse modernization funding that would ensure taxpayer investments generated maximum benefit while supporting innovations that could transform judicial service delivery. The guidelines would determine how billions of dollars in federal resources would be allocated across competing priorities and jurisdictions. The development process required synthesizing best practices from successful courthouse projects while creating evaluation criteria that could identify initiatives with greatest potential for positive impact. My role focused on translating practical implementation experience into policy frameworks that could guide federal investment decisions while maintaining flexibility necessary for adaptation to diverse local conditions. The analytical frameworks I had developed through the Riverside Project and consortium collaboration provided essential foundation for federal policy development. The systematic approaches to cost-benefit analysis, community impact assessment, and technology evaluation that had proven successful at local and regional levels could be scaled to support national program administration. Dr. Morrison served as committee chair, providing leadership that ensured thorough analysis while maintaining focus on practical applications that would generate tangible improvements in judicial service delivery. Her reputation within the judicial administration community gave the committee credibility that supported ambitious recommendations, while her mentorship continued to accelerate my professional development. The committee deliberations revealed the complexity of developing federal policies that could address diverse state and local requirements while maintaining consistent standards for accountability and effectiveness. Each state operated judicial systems under different constitutional frameworks, budget constraints, and political environments that required careful consideration in federal program design. My contribution to these discussions drew upon direct experience managing multi-jurisdictional collaboration through the consortium partnership. The practical knowledge of how different states approached courthouse modernization provided insights that complemented theoretical expertise of other committee members while informing policy recommendations that could be implemented successfully. The committee's first major deliverable involved comprehensive analysis of courthouse infrastructure needs throughout the United States. The assessment required coordinating data collection from over 3,000 counties while developing evaluation methodologies that could identify priority projects for federal funding support. I coordinated the development of standardized assessment tools that could measure infrastructure conditions, operational efficiency, and community impact factors across different judicial systems. The tools incorporated methodologies that had been validated through consortium projects while providing flexibility necessary for application across diverse contexts and requirements. The national assessment revealed infrastructure challenges far more extensive than federal officials had anticipated. Over 60% of courthouse facilities required major renovations or complete replacement to meet current accessibility, security, and operational standards. The accumulated deferred maintenance represented infrastructure debt exceeding $15 billion that was affecting judicial service delivery throughout the country. The assessment also identified opportunities for achieving significant improvements through strategic federal investment that leveraged local resources and private sector expertise. Coordinated modernization initiatives could generate economies of scale that would reduce costs while accelerating implementation timelines for communities that might otherwise wait decades for infrastructure improvements. Based on these findings, the committee recommended federal appropriations totaling $8 billion over 5 years to support courthouse modernization initiatives that demonstrated potential for transformational impact on judicial service delivery. The recommendation included innovative financing mechanisms that would leverage federal investment to attract additional resources from state, local, and private sources. The federal program design incorporated systematic methodologies and professional standards that had emerged from my work with the consortium while establishing accountability requirements that would protect taxpayer investment and ensure measurable results. The program would support both large-scale modernization projects and smaller initiatives that could demonstrate innovative approaches for broader application. Secretary Thompson accepted all committee recommendations and requested that I coordinate implementation of the federal courthouse modernization program. The appointment would require relocating to Washington and assuming responsibility for managing the largest judicial infrastructure initiative in United States history. The position represented validation of expertise that had been developed through years of systematic work, beginning with unrecognized analysis in a county courthouse. The career progression from overlooked analyst to federal program coordinator demonstrated how consistent excellence could create opportunities that exceeded initial aspirations while serving purposes larger than personal advancement. Dr. Morrison emphasized that accepting the federal position would position me to influence judicial administration throughout the United States while establishing foundations for even broader impact through international collaboration and academic research. The opportunity aligned perfectly with career objectives that focused on transforming institutional capacity rather than pursuing individual recognition. The decision to accept the federal appointment required careful consideration of personal and professional implications. The position would provide unprecedented opportunities for impact while demanding sacrifices in terms of work-life balance and geographic flexibility that would affect family relationships and personal priorities. The professional considerations were equally complex. Federal program management required different capabilities than local project coordination, including political navigation skills, media management expertise, and congressional relations experience that would need rapid development while maintaining substantive knowledge that had justified initial appointment. The learning curve would be steep, but the opportunity to influence judicial infrastructure development throughout the United States justified accepting challenges that would test capabilities while providing experiences essential for continued professional growth. The systematic preparation that had enabled previous career advancement would support transition to federal responsibilities. The appointment announcement generated significant media attention that positioned courthouse modernization as a national priority, while highlighting innovative approaches that had emerged from state and local collaboration. The coverage emphasized how federal investment could accelerate transformation of judicial infrastructure while supporting local economic development and community empowerment. Professional organizations throughout the judicial administration community endorsed the federal program design while expressing confidence that my leadership would ensure effective implementation. The endorsements reflected recognition earned through years of systematic work while providing political support that would facilitate program success. The transition to federal responsibility required establishing new professional relationships with congressional staff, federal agency administrators, and stakeholder organizations that would be essential for program success. The relationship building drew upon skills developed through consortium collaboration while requiring adaptation to political environments that operated according to different priorities and constraints. The federal appointment also required expanding public communication capabilities to engage with media representatives, congressional committees, and professional audiences that would evaluate program effectiveness while influencing future federal investment in judicial infrastructure. The communication skills had been developed through local and regional presentations but required enhancement for national audiences. My family remained largely unaware of these career developments because I had continued describing my work in general terms that discouraged detailed inquiry. The gap between their understanding of my responsibilities and the reality of my professional achievements was becoming increasingly significant as recognition expanded to national levels. The federal appointment would make continued privacy impossible as my leadership of the courthouse modernization program would require public visibility that would inevitably reach family members who had dismissed my career as routine government employment. The upcoming family dinner would likely be the last opportunity to maintain their misconceptions about my professional standing. The recognition expansion had validated systematic approaches to career development while creating opportunities for impact that extended far beyond individual advancement. The foundation built through years of preparation was supporting achievements that would influence judicial administration throughout the United States while establishing platforms for even broader influence through international collaboration and institutional change. The transition to federal responsibility brought pressures that tested my character in ways I had not anticipated during my focused pursuit of professional excellence. The demands of coordinating a national courthouse modernization program required constant travel, media appearances, and high-stakes meetings that left little time for personal reflection or relationship maintenance. Success was creating isolation that threatened the authenticity that had driven my initial commitment to public service. The irony was not lost on me that achieving recognition for transforming judicial accessibility was compromising my own accessibility to family members and personal relationships that had sustained me during years of patient preparation. The federal position required maintaining public visibility that made genuine privacy increasingly difficult while demanding performance standards that consumed energy previously devoted to personal connections and individual renewal. The warning signs emerged gradually through accumulated fatigue that I initially attributed to temporary adjustment pressures. My apartment in Washington became merely a place to sleep between obligations rather than a sanctuary for personal restoration. Weekend activities were replaced by professional conferences and stakeholder meetings that extended work demands into every aspect of daily life. More concerning was the realization that I was beginning to view personal relationships through the lens of professional utility rather than authentic connection. Conversations with former colleagues focused primarily on program implementation challenges rather than personal experiences or shared interests that had previously strengthened our friendships. Family interactions became opportunities to practice communication skills rather than moments of genuine emotional engagement. The federal appointment had also created financial independence that eliminated practical incentives for maintaining family relationships that had become increasingly strained by divergent life experiences and priorities. The freedom to avoid uncomfortable conversations about career choices and lifestyle differences was tempting but represented abandonment of family connections that had provided essential grounding throughout my professional development. Dr. Morrison recognized these challenges from her own experience navigating similar career transitions and arranged private conversations that addressed personal sustainability alongside professional effectiveness. She emphasized that maintaining authentic relationships and personal values was essential for long-term success in public service roles that involved intense pressure and constant scrutiny. Her guidance focused on establishing boundaries that would protect personal well-being while fulfilling professional responsibilities effectively. The challenge was identifying core values and relationships that required protection from work demands while maintaining commitment to excellence that had enabled career advancement. The conversations with Dr. Morrison revealed that my identity had become increasingly defined by professional achievements rather than personal characteristics and relationships that had originally motivated my commitment to public service. The success was gratifying but had created dependencies on external validation that could become problematic if professional circumstances changed unexpectedly. The personal reflection process required honest assessment of how federal appointment had affected my relationship with family members who had consistently underestimated my capabilities and dismissed my career choices. While their lack of recognition had been painful, it had also provided freedom from expectations and interference that might have compromised my professional development. The prospect of revealing my true professional standing to family members who had characterized my work as routine government employment created anxiety that surprised me with its intensity. Their reactions would test whether family relationships could adapt to changed circumstances while revealing whether their previous dismissiveness reflected permanent character limitations or temporary misunderstanding. The anxiety was compounded by recognition that I had contributed to family misperceptions by deliberately downplaying professional achievements to avoid confrontations about career choices they could not understand or appreciate. The strategy had been effective for maintaining peace during family gatherings, but had also enabled continued disrespect that was becoming increasingly difficult to tolerate. The internal struggle intensified when my younger sister Jade announced her engagement and requested that I participate in wedding planning activities that would require significant time commitments during a critical implementation phase of the federal courthouse program. The request represented a test of family priorities versus professional obligations that had no clearly correct resolution. Declining participation would confirm family perceptions that my career had made me selfish and disconnected from personal relationships. Accepting the commitment would require professional sacrifices that could compromise program effectiveness and disappoint federal officials who depended on my leadership. The dilemma revealed how success had created competing obligations that were difficult to balance without disappointing important stakeholders. The wedding planning discussions also highlighted the growing gap between my lifestyle and family expectations that remained rooted in conventional assumptions about success and happiness. Jade's focus on material displays of prosperity and social status reflected values that no longer resonated with my experience of finding fulfillment through public service and institutional transformation. The conversations revealed that family members had developed their own explanations for my career choices that preserved their worldview while avoiding recognition of achievements they could not understand. They characterized my work as noble but impractical, admirable but unrealistic, or idealistic but financially limiting rather than acknowledging expertise that had attracted national recognition. These characterizations were particularly frustrating because they demonstrated fundamental misunderstanding of public sector career possibilities while revealing assumptions about success that prioritized immediate material rewards over long-term impact and institutional change. The dismissiveness reflected intellectual limitations rather than deliberate hostility, but was no less painful for being unintentional. The situation with my brother Marcus was even more complex because his recent real estate ventures had encountered difficulties that made him increasingly defensive about professional achievements and financial success. Our conversations had become exercises in mutual avoidance of topics that might create uncomfortable comparisons between our respective career trajectories. Marcus had begun making comments that suggested resentment about my federal appointment, which he had learned about through professional networks rather than direct communication. His remarks revealed awareness that my career had achieved recognition he had not anticipated, while maintaining the dismissive attitude that characterized our historical relationship. The family dynamics were further complicated by our parents, who expressed pride in my achievements while clearly not understanding their significance or implications. Their well-intentioned attempts to discuss my work often revealed misconceptions that demonstrated how little they actually knew about my responsibilities and expertise. The internal struggle reached a crisis point when I realized that maintaining family relationships required either continued concealment of professional realities or confrontation that might permanently damage connections with people I loved despite their limitations. Neither option was satisfactory, but continued deception was becoming emotionally unsustainable. Dr. Morrison's guidance during this difficult period emphasized that authenticity required accepting responsibility for enabling family misperceptions while also establishing boundaries that would protect personal well-being during necessary relationship adjustments. The process would be challenging but was essential for long-term emotional health and professional effectiveness. The resolution required developing communication strategies that could reveal professional realities gradually while demonstrating continued commitment to family relationships despite fundamental differences in values and priorities. The approach would test whether family members could adapt their understanding while providing opportunities for improved relationships based on mutual respect rather than condescension. The upcoming family dinner provided an opportunity to begin this process by sharing information about federal responsibilities in ways that would educate without seeming boastful while establishing expectations for future interactions that acknowledged changed circumstances. The conversation would require careful preparation to achieve positive outcomes rather than defensive reactions. The internal struggle had revealed important lessons about maintaining personal integrity during professional advancement. Success that compromised authentic relationships was ultimately hollow, but protecting authenticity required courage to confront uncomfortable truths about family dynamics while maintaining commitment to personal values that transcended professional achievement. The challenge was integrating professional success with personal fulfillment in ways that honored both individual achievements and family relationships without compromising either dimension of a meaningful life. The resolution would require wisdom, patience, and communication skills that extended beyond professional capabilities to address fundamental questions about identity and purpose. The federal appointment had provided opportunities for impact that exceeded my initial aspirations while creating personal challenges that tested character and relationships in unexpected ways. The next phase would determine whether professional success could be sustained while maintaining authentic connections with family members who had shaped my early development despite their failure to recognize my potential. The federal courthouse modernization program faced its most severe challenge when a massive cyber attack compromised multiple judicial systems across 6 states, exposing vulnerabilities in courthouse technology infrastructure that threatened to undermine public confidence in the entire modernization initiative. The attack occurred during the program's critical first year of implementation, when political support remained fragile and opponents were seeking evidence that federal investment in courthouse technology represented misguided resource allocation. The cyber attack originated from sophisticated international criminal organizations that had identified courthouse systems as particularly vulnerable targets due to outdated security protocols and limited cybersecurity expertise within traditional judicial administration. The attackers successfully encrypted case management databases, compromised financial records, and disrupted court operations that affected hundreds of thousands of pending legal proceedings across the affected jurisdictions. The crisis demanded immediate response to restore operational capacity while addressing security vulnerabilities that had enabled the attack. Federal officials required comprehensive analysis of system weaknesses, detailed remediation plans, and assurance that similar incidents could be prevented through enhanced security measures. The response would determine whether the courthouse modernization program would continue receiving congressional support or face budget reductions that could eliminate entire initiative components. I received notification of the cyber attack at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday morning through emergency protocols that required immediate coordination with federal cybersecurity agencies, affected state and local officials, and technology contractors responsible for courthouse system development. The complexity of the crisis demanded simultaneous management of technical restoration efforts, political communication strategies, and media relations that would influence public perception of program effectiveness. The initial assessment revealed that the cyber attack had exploited security weaknesses in legacy systems that were scheduled for replacement through the modernization program but remained operational during transition periods. The attackers had identified these vulnerabilities through sophisticated reconnaissance that demonstrated extensive knowledge of courthouse technology infrastructure across multiple states. The irony was painful because the modernization program included cybersecurity enhancements specifically designed to address the vulnerabilities that had enabled the attack. The new security protocols incorporated advanced encryption, multi-factor authentication, and intrusion detection systems that would have prevented the successful penetration that had compromised legacy systems. The crisis management required coordination with the Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and specialized cybersecurity contractors who possessed expertise necessary for system restoration and forensic analysis. The coordination challenged my capabilities in areas that extended far beyond traditional judicial administration into technical domains that required rapid learning while maintaining leadership credibility. Dr. Morrison provided essential guidance during the initial crisis response by leveraging her relationships with federal agency leadership while helping me navigate political dimensions of the emergency that could determine program survival. Her experience with high-pressure situations enabled strategic thinking that balanced immediate operational requirements with long-term program protection. The media response to the cyber attack was intense and largely negative, with news coverage emphasizing courthouse vulnerabilities while questioning whether federal investment in judicial technology represented sound policy priorities. Congressional critics used the incident to argue that traditional courthouse operations were more secure than modernized systems that introduced unnecessary complexity and vulnerability. The criticism was particularly damaging because it misrepresented the relationship between legacy system vulnerabilities and modernization security enhancements. The attack had succeeded precisely because affected jurisdictions were operating outdated systems that lacked security capabilities included in modernization designs, but this distinction was lost in media coverage that characterized the incident as evidence of modernization program failure. The political pressure intensified when Senator Robert Harrison, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Federal Courts, announced hearings to examine courthouse cybersecurity preparedness and the effectiveness of federal modernization investments. Senator Harrison had previously expressed skepticism about the program's scope and costs, and the cyber attack provided ammunition for critics who wanted to reduce federal involvement in state and local judicial infrastructure. The Senate hearings would require comprehensive testimony about program objectives, implementation progress, security protocols, and lessons learned from the cyber attack. The testimony would be delivered under oath before senators who possessed varying levels of technical expertise while being broadcast to national audiences that would judge program credibility based on my performance under hostile questioning. Preparation for the Senate testimony required mastering technical details about cybersecurity protocols, system architecture, and attack methodologies that extended beyond my traditional expertise while developing communication strategies that could explain complex concepts to non-technical audiences. The challenge was enormous because errors or evasive responses would damage program credibility while providing ammunition for opponents who wanted to eliminate federal courthouse funding. The preparation process revealed gaps in my understanding of cybersecurity technology that required intensive study during the crisis management period when time was already constrained by operational demands. The learning curve was steep, but mastery of technical details was essential for maintaining credibility during Senate questioning that would probe every aspect of program design and implementation. Dr. Morrison arranged consultation with cybersecurity experts who had previously testified before Congress about technology vulnerabilities and remediation strategies. These sessions provided both technical education and strategic guidance about congressional testimony that would help me avoid common pitfalls while effectively communicating program benefits and security enhancements. The crisis also required direct engagement with affected state and local officials who were managing courthouse operations disrupted by the cyber attack. These conversations demanded empathy for practical challenges while maintaining confidence in federal program capabilities that could address systemic vulnerabilities through coordinated modernization efforts. The state and local officials expressed frustration about security vulnerabilities that had been exploited by attackers while seeking assurance that federal assistance would provide effective protection against future incidents. Their concerns were legitimate and required comprehensive responses that acknowledged past problems while demonstrating enhanced security capabilities available through modernization implementation. The technical restoration efforts proceeded more successfully than political management, with cybersecurity contractors achieving system recovery within 10 days while implementing enhanced security protocols that exceeded previous protection levels. The rapid restoration demonstrated that coordinated federal response could address sophisticated attacks more effectively than individual jurisdictions working independently. The forensic analysis revealed attack methodologies that provided valuable intelligence about criminal organizations targeting judicial systems while identifying specific vulnerabilities that required immediate attention across all courthouse modernization projects. This information enabled proactive security enhancements that would prevent similar attacks while strengthening overall program effectiveness. The Senate testimony required 3 days of detailed questioning about every aspect of program design, implementation oversight, and crisis response procedures. Senator Harrison and his allies attempted to demonstrate program inadequacy through aggressive questioning about cost overruns, timeline delays, and security vulnerabilities that had enabled the cyber attack. The testimony provided opportunities to explain how the cyber attack had actually validated modernization program objectives by demonstrating vulnerabilities in legacy systems that were being addressed through federal investment in enhanced security capabilities. The attack had succeeded against outdated infrastructure that modernization was designed to replace, not against new systems that incorporated advanced protection protocols. The technical explanations required careful balance between comprehensive accuracy and accessibility for senators and public audiences who lacked cybersecurity expertise. The challenge was providing sufficient detail to demonstrate competence while avoiding technical complexity that could obscure essential messages about program effectiveness and security improvements. The most difficult questioning involved budget implications of enhanced security measures that had been accelerated in response to the cyber attack. Senator Harrison argued that security requirements were expanding program costs beyond original authorization while creating ongoing obligations that Congress had not anticipated when approving initial funding. The budget discussion required detailed analysis of cost-benefit relationships that demonstrated how enhanced security investments would reduce long-term vulnerability costs while protecting federal investments in courthouse infrastructure. The analysis showed that proactive security spending was significantly less expensive than reactive crisis management and system restoration following successful attacks. The Senate hearings concluded with bipartisan recognition that the cyber attack had demonstrated both the necessity of courthouse modernization and the effectiveness of coordinated federal response to sophisticated security threats. Senator Harrison acknowledged that the crisis had been managed competently while maintaining reservations about program scope and federal oversight requirements. The crisis resolution enhanced my credibility within the federal cybersecurity community while demonstrating capabilities that extended beyond traditional judicial administration into technical domains that were becoming increasingly important for all government operations. The experience validated systematic preparation approaches while revealing areas where continued learning would be essential for long-term effectiveness. The cyber attack crisis had tested every aspect of leadership capability while revealing character traits that could only be assessed under extreme pressure. The successful resolution validated years of systematic preparation while demonstrating that authentic expertise could withstand hostile scrutiny from critics who sought to undermine program credibility through political rather than substantive challenges. The successful resolution of the cyber attack crisis provided valuable insights that enabled fundamental improvements to the federal courthouse modernization program, while establishing new approaches to cybersecurity that would influence government technology initiatives across multiple agencies. The crisis had revealed both vulnerabilities in existing systems and opportunities for enhanced protection that exceeded original security specifications. The post-crisis analysis identified specific weaknesses in coordination protocols between federal agencies, state governments, and technology contractors that had complicated initial response efforts. These coordination challenges had delayed system restoration while creating communication gaps that had been exploited by critics seeking to undermine program credibility through claims of inadequate federal oversight. The analysis also revealed that existing cybersecurity training programs for courthouse personnel were insufficient for addressing sophisticated attack methodologies that were becoming increasingly common. Traditional security awareness education focused on basic password protection and email safety rather than comprehensive threat recognition and incident response protocols that were essential for modern courthouse operations. Based on these findings, I developed comprehensive program modifications that would address identified vulnerabilities while establishing new standards for federal technology initiatives that involved state and local government partnerships. The modifications required coordination with multiple federal agencies while maintaining program momentum that could not afford delays caused by extended bureaucratic review processes. The first strategic modification involved establishing dedicated cybersecurity coordination centers that would provide continuous monitoring of courthouse technology systems while enabling immediate response to emerging threats. The centers would be staffed by federal cybersecurity specialists who possessed expertise that exceeded capabilities available at state and local levels while maintaining direct communication links with affected jurisdictions. The coordination centers represented significant expansion of federal involvement in courthouse operations, but were justified by demonstrated vulnerabilities that could not be addressed through traditional state and local resources. The centers would provide protective services that enhanced rather than replaced local capabilities while establishing sustainable frameworks for ongoing security maintenance. The second modification addressed training deficiencies through comprehensive cybersecurity education programs that would be required for all courthouse personnel who accessed modernized technology systems. The training programs would provide both basic security awareness and advanced incident response capabilities that would enable effective local response to sophisticated attacks. The training programs required development of specialized curricula that could accommodate diverse educational backgrounds and technical expertise levels among courthouse personnel. The programs would need to provide practical skills that could be applied immediately while establishing knowledge foundations that would support continuous improvement as threat environments evolved. Dr. Morrison provided strategic guidance about implementing program modifications without creating political perception that the original design had been fundamentally flawed. The challenge was positioning improvements as proactive enhancements that demonstrated responsive leadership rather than reactive corrections that validated criticisms about inadequate initial planning. The positioning strategy emphasized how crisis response had generated intelligence about threat methodologies that enabled security enhancements exceeding original specifications. The modifications represented program evolution based on real-world experience rather than acknowledgement of design inadequacies that had compromised courthouse security. The strategic pivot also required addressing budget implications of enhanced security measures that exceeded original appropriation levels. The cybersecurity improvements would require additional funding that needed congressional approval during a political environment that remained skeptical about program expansion following the cyber attack incident. The budget request strategy focused on cost-benefit analysis that demonstrated how proactive security investments would reduce long-term vulnerability costs while protecting existing federal investments in courthouse infrastructure. The analysis showed that security enhancements represented insurance against catastrophic losses that could exceed program costs through single incidents. The budget presentation to congressional appropriations committees required detailed justification of enhanced security requirements while demonstrating fiscal responsibility through comprehensive cost controls and performance metrics. The presentation needed to balance technical accuracy with political accessibility for committee members who possessed varying levels of cybersecurity expertise. The congressional presentations were successful because they positioned security enhancements as essential infrastructure protection rather than program expansion that reflected original design inadequacies. Committee members recognized that evolving threat environments required adaptive responses that could not have been anticipated during initial program development. The strategic modifications also addressed stakeholder communication improvements that would enhance coordination during future crisis situations while building sustainable support for ongoing program implementation. The communication protocols would establish clear authority relationships and information sharing procedures that would eliminate confusion that had complicated initial crisis response efforts. The communication improvements required extensive consultation with state and local officials who would be responsible for implementing enhanced protocols while maintaining operational flexibility necessary for addressing diverse local requirements. The protocols needed to provide federal coordination capabilities without compromising state and local autonomy that was essential for effective courthouse operations. The stakeholder engagement process revealed additional opportunities for program improvement through enhanced partnership arrangements that would leverage state and local expertise while providing federal resources and coordination that exceeded individual jurisdiction capabilities. These partnerships would create synergies that could accelerate program implementation while reducing costs through shared resource utilization. The partnership development required complex negotiations that balanced federal oversight requirements with state and local operational autonomy, while establishing performance standards that would protect federal investment and ensure program effectiveness. The negotiations tested diplomatic skills that complemented technical expertise while establishing frameworks for sustainable intergovernmental cooperation. The most significant strategic modification involved establishing research partnerships with academic institutions that would provide ongoing analysis of courthouse modernization outcomes while generating insights that could enhance future implementations. The research partnerships would create knowledge development capabilities that would support continuous program improvement based on empirical evidence rather than theoretical speculation. The academic partnerships required coordination with universities that possessed relevant expertise in public administration, technology assessment, and judicial studies while maintaining appropriate boundaries between research objectives and operational requirements. The partnerships would generate independent analysis that could validate program effectiveness while identifying opportunities for enhanced performance. The research programs would also provide professional development opportunities for graduate students who could contribute to program implementation while building expertise that would support long-term career advancement in judicial administration. The educational components would create talent pipeline that could sustain program effectiveness through leadership transitions and political changes. The strategic pivot culminated with establishment of comprehensive program evaluation frameworks that would provide continuous assessment of implementation progress while generating data necessary for ongoing program refinement. The evaluation frameworks would measure both operational effectiveness and community impact outcomes that would justify continued federal investment in courthouse modernization. The evaluation frameworks incorporated lessons learned from crisis management while establishing baseline measurements that would enable assessment of program improvements over time. The frameworks would provide accountability mechanisms that would satisfy congressional oversight requirements while generating information necessary for strategic planning and resource allocation decisions. The implementation of strategic modifications required extensive coordination with existing program participants while maintaining operational continuity that could not be disrupted during enhancement implementation. The transition management demanded careful sequencing of changes that would minimize operational disruption while achieving security and effectiveness improvements that justified modification complexity. The transition process validated project management capabilities that had been developed through consortium collaboration, while demonstrating adaptability that would be essential for long-term program success in dynamic political and technological environments. The successful implementation of strategic modifications enhanced confidence among federal officials and congressional supporters that the program could adapt effectively to changing requirements. The strategic pivot had transformed potential program weakness into demonstration of responsive leadership and adaptive capability that exceeded expectations of critics who had anticipated program failure following the cyber attack crisis. The modifications had strengthened program foundations while establishing capabilities that would support long-term success regardless of future challenges that might emerge. Dr. Morrison observed that the strategic pivot represented exactly the kind of institutional learning that distinguished sustainable public programs from initiatives that failed when confronted with unexpected challenges. The ability to analyze crisis lessons systematically while implementing effective improvements demonstrated leadership maturity that would support continued career advancement in federal service. The successful completion of strategic modifications positioned the courthouse modernization program as a model for federal technology initiatives while establishing new standards for cybersecurity coordination that would influence government operations across multiple agencies. The program had evolved from courthouse infrastructure improvement into comprehensive framework for federal-state-local cooperation in technology modernization initiatives. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.